when you're in front of an audience and first time you start speaking, you become incredibly aware of the energy of the audience. You know what I'm talking about, right? And you get that sense when people are just kind of not there with you. And this happened to me when I joined Toastmasters many years ago. And Toastmasters used to have, it doesn't have anymore, it used to have a book. The book's called A Competent Communication Manual. Now everything is online. They had this book back there. And the suggestion in the book was, talk about yourself. Pretty much that's what it was. The whole thing just said, go up there, talk about yourself. So the very first speech I gave in front of a complete bunch of strangers was I was talking about myself. So I did kind of what you always do in a kind of an awkward conversation where you're bragging basically, but don't want to be bragging. You say things like, I talk about my life. So, I was a secretary, and I really like being a secretary. It's a lot of fun, and I do things like expenses, and I like to do travel, and I like to arrange other people's schedules. And as a secretary, when I'm arranging these things, and about this time in my speech, I noticed that point where the audience was just beginning to lose the audience. I'm not saying that people are actually dozing off, but I'm just saying sometimes they got that kind of thing where they're sort of almost dozing off, and they kind of catch themselves after a while. You've seen people do that before. Do that in college, perhaps. You know, really boring professors. Yeah, and some of them are getting like that 1,000-yard stare where you're in a bad movie theater, but it's too late to leave, and you're just staring at the screen saying, God, I hope this thing finishes quickly. I've got another hour or more of this to go. I can't stand it. And I started realizing that's where the audience was looking, but I don't know what to do. I was talking about myself. But then what you do in these situations, when you're talking about yourself and you're not really connecting the audience, is you start to speak faster. Thinking two things. One is it makes it better. Two, it gets it over that much quicker. So I started saying, okay, I really enjoy being a secretary. It's a lot of fun. I get up there every day. I really enjoy it. And I became sort of like, if you ever watched the Roadrunner, just all the way through. And you know, a 7-minute speech I finished about 3 minutes, and I was done. I was out of there. I was done. And that was my first experience talking in front of people. I thought, I didn't go that well. And I'm thinking exactly the way you're looking. Like Lena's like, that just doesn't sound too good. So I thought, okay, but get back on the horse, right? You ever heard that expression? Maybe you haven't. It just means an American expression. You get back out there, try it again. So the next speech, all I know is to talk about myself. That's literally all I know. And the next thing about organize your speech sort of things. I said, okay, I'll talk about travel. Traveling, I like to do traveling. So I went up there and I said, well, I've been to England and I really like going to England, and there's a lot of people in England and they're really nice, and you get there and the Oxford is a beautiful place. When I was in Oxford, and people started to get restless, like you're doing right now. Man, what is gonna stop? And again, it was that awkward feeling. It's like that feeling, when your presentation, when you start seeing things like crashing, and everything just kind of goes in slow motion. You're looking at everything just kind of breaking down. You're thinking, this is not going well. This is not going well at all. And it just freaked me out, and I just stopped speaking for a while. I gave other speeches, but I didn't really go through them. I just got more and more frustrated. I said, okay, this is just not working. I don't know what's happening. What's the matter? What am I going to do? And in those situations, sometimes when you can't solve it, sometimes somebody else can. And actually, Rocky was there. This was the Extreme Toastmasters many, many years ago. And it said, Rocky, what's going on? I mean, I'm talking to people, I'm talking to them, and they don't seem to be paying attention. He said, well, Tim, when you go up there and talk about them, you're just talking about yourself. You're saying, I did this, I did that. So you go, well, that's what you're supposed to do, right? You just talk about yourself. That's what the instruction says in Toastmasters. Says, well, Tim, when you talk about yourself, you always include the audience. In fact, Tim, the most important word you can ever use as a speaker is the word you. Tim, make sure you use the you. I promise you, your speeches will go better. Well, that was about the first time I actually thought about the fact there's an audience listening to all the stuff that I was saying up there. I thought, wait a minute, there are people out there actually listening. It probably makes sense that I throw them a bone like saying, have you ever had this situation? So I started kind of working on that more and more, incorporating that idea of the word you. So instead of saying just I did this, I did that, I said, okay, well, how can I figure out, put the word you in there? Well, have you ever done that? Have you ever traveled? Have you ever been traveling? You enjoy traveling? People did, okay, we'll see where this is going. All right, fine, yeah. And I discovered it was more responsive. As I started using the word you more and putting it more in, it became more responsive, more interesting, more engaged, got more confidence, and more importantly, people afterwards said, speech. I like what you did up there. It was interesting. And let me tell you about my trip. I went over here, and I went over everybody's travel trips because all of a sudden they thought I was conversing with them. So they felt more like opening up and more like, more like a conversation, less like a lecture. You been lectured to by a speaker before? Not have that feeling, awkward, nasty feeling? Yeah, Zena knows what I'm talking about. The rest of you are lying, but Zena here, telling the truth, exactly that horrible feeling. So I thought, I'm going to start doing that. And it's the simplest thing you can do when you're in front of an audience. Just use the word you. Find out a way to incorporate the word you. And it's tempting to say we, us, and if you're talking on behalf of the corporation, we, the corporation, do this. It's understandable. But if you're talking about the people in the corporation, use the word you. Have you ever, did you ever, could you ever, if you've ever been, use the word you and you discover something. You can get easier, faster, it's more comfortable up on stage. And when you take the spotlight off yourself, turn on your audience, all of a sudden everything opens up. You just feel better and your audience feels better. It's a more enjoyable experience. So you're in front of an audience, you don't know what to do. Always remember, use the you.
Use the you. Make any word.
You didn't take your spot.
Incorporate it into your speech next time.
mesmerizing. I was like,
No, he is.
I'm like writing notes.
Okay.